Hi there, everyone. It is currently the 18th of September 2014, making this update right around 06 Universal Time, about 1500 Japan Standard Time, 1400 Philippine Time. We are continuing to track Tropical Storm Fung Wong just towards the east of Visayas, moving along the eastern seaboards of the Philippines, expected to track off here towards the northwest. And this storm system likely will be making landfall here as we look ahead into Friday into Cagayan, and actually much of northeastern Luzon has been put under signal force 1, indicating these tropical storm strength winds very well likely here. Also, the other thing I want you to note is from the Japan Meteorological Agency, you see this area here in the red. That's actually indicating winds of 50 knots or greater is likely in the next, 72 hours out here. So those of you in northern Luzon, you've also been warned on by JMA. Also much of Taiwan and parts of the southern Japanese islands in this cone right now. As far as our storm system at this time, though, the winds are not really the big problem associated with it. It's the rainfall. And in fact, actually, the center of circulation with Fung Wong here is fairly disorganized. As you can see, it's exposed right there north of the bulk of the convection. If we looked at the larger view of the infrared imagery, it looks like the center is actually down here towards the south. But then when we look at the visible satellite imagery, you can see where those low-level clouds are moving off here towards the east. It wraps in from the north. That puts the low-level center a little bit north of the main bulk of the convection. So that's indicating a relatively weak storm, and that's why at this time we're seeing winds about 65 kilometers per hour, 35 knots, barely tropical storm intensity. With that said, the rainfall, that's the biggest issue here. Let's take a look. Actually, I have two models I want to show you here as far as our 72-hour rainfall accumulation. This is the first from the GFS output earlier on this morning, showing you right about 300 to 500 millimeters of rain in western portions of Luzon. Now, the thing you have to remember with GFS is that this model is very low resolution. So what we're seeing is just a general output for the amount of precipitation over the next 72 hours. This amount of rain could cause some severe flooding. But the thing I want to share is actually, this was put out there by CNN earlier today. And I want to share this because it's one of the few models, or the only model going this high, but they have a 12-kilometer resolution WRF model. Actually, one point there in Baguio, just north of the NCR, 994 millimeters expected based on this accumulation outlook over the duration of this event. That is just mind-boggling, nearly a meter of rainfall. Is that going to happening? I hope not. It seems unlikely, but I'm not saying it's impossible. Now, this is because we see our storm system just here towards the east of Luzon. It's still fairly weak, but we have an abundance of moisture flowing in around the western periphery. That's actually why Cebu, you've seen all your schools closed here on Thursday. Friday, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens as well. Widespread flooding reported, even a tornado reported in Cebu due to one of these rain bands that have been pushing overhead, and it's just been persistent. Well, the problem is all that rain bands are going to be shifting off here towards the north and become more intense as our storm system intensifies. Once it moves over land, it will really start to pull in that moisture. First, from the north, coming out of the Luzon Strait, wrapping around, hitting northwestern portions of Luzon, and then eventually continuing the wrap around from the west. So you're going to be getting two sides of this, just that persistent moisture pushing on shore. So 300 to 500 millimeters likely, but it wouldn't surprise me if some isolated areas see even more than that as we look ahead through Friday and Saturday in northwestern Luzon. Even Manila could see some flooding, but I think areas farther off towards the north, this could be a very serious flood and landslide situation. So that's definitely going to be the big topic here on Friday and Saturday across northern portions of the Philippines. Now, I know those of you across the southern Japanese islands, Taiwan, you're really watching this storm system as well. As far as the long range on this, to be honest, and at least at this point, I mean, I'm trying to make plans and possibly going out there towards the southern Japanese islands to document this storm. It's a crapshoot. The model output is all over the place, and it's not just the model output, but the agency output. This here is actually a really great graphic from Typhoon 2000, and what you see is all the different agencies. You have Hong Kong, the USA, Japan, Beijing, Taiwan, Korea, and the Philippines. Most of them are keeping it west of Okinawa, and off here towards the west, you're going to be seeing actually the worst of weather across the far western southern Japanese islands, talking about Miyako and Ishigaki-jima. JMA It's out in La La Land here. I actually think they're following their model in particular. It wouldn't surprise me if they waver a little bit farther towards the west, but really is surprising me right now that they are staying so persistent on this easterly track, actually staying east of Okinawa. Highly unlikely that's going to be happening. But are you going to be seeing a storm system making landfall in Taiwan or across the southern Japanese islands here? That's still up for grabs, and I think that's what we're going to be watching. Anybody in this cone I just made right here, you want to keep a very close eye on this. Right now, it looks like Miyakojima is going to be hitting this, but after it makes a direct landfall, how fast is it going to turn towards the northeast? That's the big thing, and if that happens, then we could have the right front quadrant in Okinawa pushing overhead by the Sunday time frame. Even if Sunday, let's say you don't see this storm system until Sunday, Saturday is still going to be a pretty nasty day out here for those of you in Okinawa by Saturday evening at least, because we have a stationary boundary pulling our storm system off towards the north, and that's what's really churning it in that northeasterly projection is this low pressure system that's moving through with an upper level trough. If we zoom back, you can see it a little bit more clearly. Let's actually look at the upper level wind. And you can see where the jet stream actually is lying across Kyushu and then extending off here towards the north, and that acts like a hook and it pulls our storm system along here on Saturday and Sunday, and that's why we're seeing that northeasterly churn eventually. So how strong is that going to be? Well, my thoughts, I think this could be pushing out there towards Okinawa and possibly put you in the right front quadrant as we look ahead into Sunday, given everything we're seeing now at the very least. But there's a lot to talk about. The big threat is the heavy rains across the Philippines at this point, and that's definitely going to be the big topic over the next 24 hours. At least at this time. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please let us know down there in the comment box below. Always appreciate your feedback. Also, let's just watch the storm system. If you are there in Okinawa at this time, I definitely would not have any plans, at least for Sunday. Even if the storm system does stay well to the west, it's still going to bring some gusty winds. So things are going to be a little bit rough out there for you. All right, guys, stay safe out there.